Yeah. What is up, everybody? So, today, a special day, to say the least. A day that I'm excited about because I get to sign some comics. And that makes me a happy man, to say the least. So, what we're going to do is we're going to look through some stuff so I can show off what I got in the mail yesterday for the Inglewood campaign. And we will go from there. But first, just so you guys know, I'm gonna show you that I'm gonna do two things to keep things safe. First, my Pepsi. I'm putting the cap on it. And yes, this is my desk, and it is admittedly, well, it's not messy, it's a little disorganized, I suppose. And as I said in my videos, I do have tall geeses on my desk. They stay there all the time. But, so that's the first thing, to make sure that nothing spills on it. Second thing is these. This is to make sure that I don't get any fingerprints on anything. So there's that. See? Okay. So, first thing we're going to look at. Now, these do not get signed, admittedly. But, I hope nothing there got seen. Well, if it did, it is what it is. I will be delisting this video after it's done. But, regardless, the box is a little banged up, but thankfully the things inside of it were not, because there was padding within the box. So, what we have here to get us started, again, these do not get signed, but I am going to show them off real quick. These are the posters. So we have the Saint and Peregrine ones. Came out gorgeous. We have the alternate cover to book 1. We have the alternate cover to book 1 as a poster, which is right here. The lighting kind of makes it a little difficult to see. So let me turn on the ring light. That makes it a bit better. We got that one. We got the cover for book 2 as a poster. These are 11 by 17s, by the way, so they are pretty good sized. Perfect for mounting on your wall. And then finally, the Saint versus Dracula one that Bogdan did for me. So, everything there is looking good. Put these back in their box because we're not really doing anything with them today. I just wanted to show them off. So I'm going to switch cameras real quick. And I'm going to see if I can black out my address on this so I don't have another thing like that happen again. Probably should have thought of that beforehand. There we go. So we got that. I'm going to bring out, these boxes are kind of heavy, so I'm not going to drag the whole box out. But we are going to do these one bundle at a time. Let me switch the camera back. So you can see here, Inglewood Book 2. Set that there. So let's go ahead and open the bundle up. And we are going to get to signing. As you can see, pristine. Absolutely glorious looking. I'm not going to take the interiors of these just yet. You can see back right there. So, again, I'm not going to open it because I don't want to mess with the binding yet. But either way, it looks very good, to say the least. So, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to set this right here for just a moment. Silver pen. Well, silver Sharpie, but you get my meaning. Oh wow, that's very dull. Well, actually, no, you can still see it. Guess it's just the lighting. But we got a couple hundred to sign today. And I figured we would sit and yap together as I get this done. Yeah, metallic silver is very good for this kind of a cover because it's so dark. If I were to sign it in black, it wouldn't look that good. So the cool thing, the great thing about this for me is that this effectively symbolizes, you know, my ability to actually move on in my writing career. You know, because I have, you know, been stuck ever since the theft happened. So it is, it's pretty great to have these in my hand, I won't lie. I will admit my my signature for the front of comics is very different than my signature on a check. I basically, whenever I sign comic books, I will freely admit I will ask myself, how would I sign something if I was on speed? And that's what it ends up looking like. You can see the M, and that's about it. Reminds me of my dad's handwriting. You would think that my father is like a doctor or something with the way that he signs things. But he is not. He is just a minister. I say just a as if that's not an important job when it comes to Christians. It's about as important as it gets. So there's one bundle. Done and dusted. But yeah, exciting times to say the least. Got your new computer, very nice. Always good to have. I'm hoping to get some upgrades for mine in the near future. I thought about doing it this month, but then I realized that honestly, YouTube has been kind of slow, which December, January it tends to be. So I think I'm probably going to not spend any money this month unless I absolutely have to. So computer upgrades will have to wait. Which is not really that big of a deal. Because basically what I need is a new motherboard on top of a new processor and video card. And at that point, I'm genuinely considering just setting the money aside and just building a new computer. Haven't decided yet. Hey, CPU candidate says, watching the Who Is Worth Is It Griffith Xeon vid. Fuck Griffith and Xeon. Xeon especially would rank up there with the Q and all tomorrows in terms of fucked up villain factions. Yeah, they're pretty terrible. Like, they're pretty. There's a reason I used the Abaddon the Despoiler comparison. Is when I was reading like the Fall of Cadia stuff, right, from 40K, Abaddon does a colony drop. You know, like he literally does a colony drop. He pulls a fucking zombie. It's nuts. But anyway. Which, by the way, I'm glad people are digging that video. The next one after it, we are going to be starting the series of stuff surrounding the Grips War. Yeah, Xeon hasn't raped their second in command to insanity despite their best friend. Well, and that's what Lolly and I were getting to, is like, because it was Ancestor Empire. I couldn't remember who it was who had asked the question, but he came in the comments. He's like, it was me, who asked the question originally, and it's sort of a pick your poison situation. They're both awful. Because granted, they're villains. They're supposed to be terrible people, right? But with Xeon, it is, it's a bit more impersonal because, the character that has the biggest gripe against the zombie family in the original Gundam is Char, who isn't the character that we're following. There's a whole third of Gundam that Char's not even in. But admittedly, like one thing somebody pointed out is like there are plenty of sci-fi factions that actually have much higher kill counts. I think just about every race not named the Tau in Warhammer 40K have killed billions at this point. I think like every single faction has killed billions at this point. All for different reasons. Because in 40K, like, to be a human is to be one amongst unnamed trillions. Which I think is part of the reason that they are, they're starting to bring back the Primarchs, all of whom are not going to like the way the Imperium is being run right now. because it's getting from the part of like grim dark to grim derp. And I can tell that they're kind of moving away from that. Which is good, because grim derp is stupid. And there's a lot of people who have thought that the lore of 40K has been grim derp for a good many years. Looking at you, Matt Ward. People are still upset at the idea that Caldor Drago carved his name on the chest of Mortarion. It's like, Mortarion's a Primarch being backed up by fucking Nurgle, who then later on would go on to defeat Gilliman. It's like, Caldor Drago is bullshit. If I ever write for the Black Library, I will tell you right now, I'm going to have Angron kill him. And just get him out of there. Fuck off. You're not a fucking Primarch. Get out of here. But anyway. But yeah, 40K, there was a lot of deaths. In Dune, there's a ton. So. Speaking of writers of Grim Derp, what Warhammer writer should I avoid if you know him? Matt Ward. And by the way, this is something I need to preface. Don't ever, but to anybody out there, do not bother Matt Ward at all. The dude, for making the mistakes he did, like, people went way overboard with him. When people were like sending his family threats and shit over a tabletop game, it's like, stop being stupid. However, Matt Ward is one of the bigger toss-ups whenever it came to writing with 40K. His Ultramarine stuff was grim derp as fuck. His Grey Knights, he loved him some Grey Knights, because I think he created them. And the Grey Knights are stupid overpowered with him. The Caldor Drago thing I mentioned was Matt Ward. Because Caldor Drago is to the Grey Knights what Cato Sicarius was to the Ultramarines, in the sense that he is bestest boy and he can do no wrong. To Matt Ward's credit, though, it was also Matt Ward who made the Necrons interesting. Because he's the one who actually created Trazen the Infinite. So, with Matt Ward, my basic idea is avoid anything he did with the Ultramarines or the Grey Knights. Other stuff he did, like Necron stuff, really good. But yeah, Matt Ward is the big one. I have not read enough books to say about any others. So I'm admittedly not the best person to ask. Do you think it's possible to humanize a villain while making them interesting? Or humanizing a villain just takes away from the height of being a villain? Depends on the story you're writing. If you're writing a short-form story, like a movie like Die Hard, do we really need humanization of Hans Gruber? Fuck no. I don't care about what Hans Gruber's fucking kindergarten life was like, you know? But if you're doing a long-form story, then yeah, it's a good idea to humanize them a little bit, give them a little bit more depth, because you're going to be spending time with them. It's nice to know their motivations. In this book right here, and this arc of Inglewood Born in Blood, is a good example of how I did it. I will just say the Carlos situation gets rectified by the end. Because fuck Carlos. Carlos, I admittedly did not give him a ton of depth, because I didn't have any plans for him long term, and he is effectively supposed to be Joe Chill in a lot of ways. he's not supposed to be the big name. He's the guy that introduces you, the audience, to exactly how fucked up the world that we're interacting with is. In regards to fucked up video game villains, I think Dr. Wily from Mega Man Zero would rank up there, considering he literally caused an apocalypse during a time of peace due to hatred for Reploids. Gotta love Capcom villains and their love of genocide, alright? Because let us not forget complete global saturation. Just kind of now realizing that my comic signature looks more like it says Micah Kurt than it does say Curtis, but I'm okay with that. There. I put an S on that one to whoever gets it. It's amazing how DC loves to milk Joe Chill, and I'm not even kidding. I'll just say this. They're out of ideas. They're very much out of ideas. Okay. So, one thing I said in my Discord server that I should probably talk about is what we're doing next with this franchise. So here's the plan for the future. I have one book, the next Inglewood book, which is the crossover with Peregrine, that is completely written. It has been written for years now. Which, the astonishing thing about it, hey Serena, the astonishing thing about, and this is admittedly a flex on my end, the astonishing thing about Peregrine is that I wrote that crossover without actually reading the script for the original Peregrine book. I was so confident, because admittedly, like at the time, I have no idea where my scissors just dropped. I'm not going to worry about it though. I was so completely confident in my writing skills at the time that I just said to myself, you know what? I bet I can write this character by you just telling me about her. And that's basically what happened, is I sat down with Xavier and Wayne, and I said, tell me about this character. Tell me about her. And they did. We talked for a couple hours about it. 1 week later, I wrote the entire script. And Wayne was like, holy shit, this is spot on. And I'm like, yep. Because I'm very good at what I do. So, needless to say, I am very, very confident in what I do. Or in what I do. Because I really enjoy it. Do I plan on playing the remaster of Soul Reaver? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I haven't purchased it yet because I wanted to wait and see what my finances were going to look like. And I'm in the process of kind of like figuring a few things out. So, all right, let's continue. But anyway, I want to talk a bit about what we've got with the next steps for Inglewood. So the next thing, of course, is the crossover. Which, by the way, if you've not got on the mailing list for that yet, it is in the description of the video. For those of you that are either in the VOD gang or for those of you who are watching this live. But the next thing that I have planned after the crossover is a much longer book. And I have not decided if I want to do it by cutting it in half and doing 266 pagers, or if I should do one book that is 120 something pages and we just sell it at a little bit of a higher price. I haven't made the decision yet, but that arc is called City of Assassins. And the basic idea is that it is what I call a more comic booky arc. So with Inglewood, I want to do two things with every single book that we do. I want to do what I call a more grounded book, and then I want to do a more comic booky book. A grounded book is something like this one, which is, it's a crime story. You know, it just happens to have a superhero in it. A comic booky book is a little bit more over the top. Not that not that it isn't like taking itself seriously, because it is, but rather, it does a little bit more like absurd things. Like, the crossover is more comic booky in the sense that it has the Saint and Peregrine fighting demons. See that page count again? Over 120 pages. What type of setting? Still Chicago. But City of Assassins is the book that effectively is going to also focus a bit more on characterization. You get a little bit more of the Saint's background. You get a bit more about his former love life, his current love life. You get a bit of what it is like to live as Elijah Wallace outside of the superhero costume. And there's ninjas. I kid you not. There are ninjas in the next arc after this one and after the crossover. You see what I mean by it being a bit more comic booky? Yeah, meaning that they accept the fantasy and sci-fi aspects of the series, basically. So, it is still a serious story. Hello, Gills for President. How's it going, dude? Will there be great Chicago food? Yes. Elijah has a pizza weakness. I will freely admit that he will probably be eating some form of pizza at least once per graphic novel. But yeah, guys, I'm in the process of signing comic books, which we are going to be fulfilling these very, very soon. Let me bring this box over here, because we're going to be filling it with the comics that are already signed. So let me bring out the unsigned ones here. There we go. Saw the Gundam vid on Tall's channel. Safe to say we share a mutual interest. Well, I hope you enjoyed it. That one was a fun one to do together. Wally and I, we've known each other for a while. And obviously, like, we're working on stuff together. But, I always wanted to do a video with him. I'm like, you know what? He and I have a lot of the same tastes. So I figured, and he and I have, like, we've always gotten along. So I'm like, you know what? This would be really cool. And admittedly, some people kind of caught the channel awesome sort of thing at the start of it. I'm like, I can't deny my roots, man. I can't. I started on the internet working for Blistered Thumbs. That was the environment I was around. Some of those things I admittedly still find funny. Some of them. I'm not going to act too cool for school. It's just, I'm too old for that shit, you know? But anyway. Deep dish or thin crust? If it's Chicago, it's usually deep dish or just a standard hand-tossed. Admittedly, I'm of the opinion that if you go to a Chicago place, they will do the type of pizza you like better than the other regional places you would go. But I think a lot of it is just because of the fact that here in Illinois, we take our food very seriously. I need to get a bit of beverage in me. But anyway, yeah, the next comic arc, it has ninjas. It has gangsters. It also features the Triad. And it'll introduce them as a player. So, so that will be, that'll be a big deal. But yeah, as of right now, that arc is looking like it's going to be pretty substantial in size. After that, and hey, Rocket, the Chinese, yes. The big gimmick with the next section is or after that is a serious arc called 100 Tombstones, which that one is going to be about. I'll put it this way: the gang that we're going to see the most of for the next couple arcs, is the Prophets, and the next arc after City of Assassins has a member of the Prophets Council, the Seven Gun Council, hunting down another gang leader that is also being hunted down by the Saint at the same time, and it's basically who gets to him first. Because for the Saint, he doesn't want the guy dead, he wants him locked up. The other guy wants him dead. So, if the guy's really going to see justice for the things that he's done, the Saint has to get to him first. So it's going to be a bit of a mad dash, but it is it's going to be a darker story, because the theme of it since it's set in Chicago, it's called 100 Tombstones. I will freely admit that the idea is inspired by the amount of people killed in drive-by shootings every year in Chicago. Though I will admit, I'm not doing any like commentary on Chicago, on its politics or anything like that. So, no worries, Batzilla. I appreciate you popping in and saying hi. Just hopefully you'll be able to catch the VOD later. But as I was saying, there is there's a bit more seriousness to it. Because if it's inspired by real world events, I have to take it seriously. You know? Can't wait to get books 1 and 2. Trust me, Rocket. I can't wait for you to get this either. Would Gotham count as a commentary on big cities? The television show or just in general? Well, actually, you know what? You don't need to answer that because I suppose... Oh, it's the city, not the show. It depends on who's writing it. I mean, you could definitely use it for that. It just depends on the type of story you're looking to tell. The two main things that influence the type of story you're gonna end up telling are your setting and your arc. Because your setting determines so much. A lot of people still don't realize that to this day. Whenever it comes to writing. Then again, the one thing that I've noticed, like, a lot of people have pointed out, like, a lot of the best writing that they're reading is, like, from writers who are ridiculously, like, storied and have been around for a while, or people who follow old school aesthetic. And admittedly, like, the reason that I'm of the opinion that exists is because a lot of modern writers didn't really get taught very well. You know, I learned a lot of my writing skills, oddly enough, in high school. And I got lucky that I had 2 English teachers that kept me on the straight and narrow as a writer in regards to, like, tone, candor, things of that nature, you know? But I never went to college for it. I went to college for theology and for philosophy. But my teachers kept one thing in my brain when it came to my writing and to fostering my skills. Stick to the basics. Don't try to get too fancy. Don't try to overthink it. Stick to the basics. Stick to what you know works. Don't get away from it. Because if you do, that's where you make mistakes. Which admittedly was good advice for life, because it seems like every time that I've ever tried to overcomplicate things in my personal life, it screws something up. So, you know, don't fix what ain't busted. It's a very blue-collar way of looking at things. Hey, 2 things. First, thank you for the super chat. Second, my notifications are working again. Columbia says, you did security work, advice for sore feet after standing for 6 to 8 hours. This new job management is pretty disorganized. It's that way with a lot of security companies. As for sore feet, I would just soak them in warm water after a shift. But after about a week or two, you won't even notice it. I'll tell you one thing. But yeah, anyway, 100 tombstones. That one is going to be... It's going to be really good. But it will be a much darker Inglewood story than the previous ones. And then we also have an anthology book planned called Tales from Inglewood that is going to feature several different writers working on it. Myself and Xavier being the 2 most notable. What comes first, plot of the theme, or do they have to come together? They kind of have to come together. The plot... I think of plot as your outline. It is the general idea of what you want to happen in a story. To use this one, you know, mixed martial artist gets tired of street crime, decides to throw on a costume and take the fight to the streets. That's the basic plot of this story, right? From there, once you have your plot set, the theme of things will start to come as you write it. In fact, like, I didn't even realize the theme of this until I finished the script. Alright, that's 1 box done. We are already a quarter of the way finished. Let me go ahead and put these away. Just a second here. Make sure they're nice and snug. Okay. So that's one set of books. Now let me drag over the other one. The boxes are admittedly very heavy. Let's scoot that over. Granted, they're full of books. So what else do you expect, right? couple of these. Admittedly, I have been getting these up the stairs was difficult. Well, thanks, Pasta. I appreciate it, buddy. And I try to do my best to stay passionate. I legitimately love everything I'm doing these days, and I'm hoping it shines through. Seeing like just signing these today. Oh man. There's a story of the last 3 years, because this book has taken too long to get out. The book has been done for like a year and a half, if not maybe 2 years now. This was supposed to be out last year, and we had, and I say we as me and my business partner, we had someone hack into the business PayPal that we had at the time and stole thousands upon thousands of dollars. Basically, all the money to print and fulfill the rest of these, alongside the money to pay my artist for another book, and on top of that, print and fulfill my novella that I wrote. All of that gone. And these, I had to work hard on a different project to get the money to print these. And then on top of that, I've had to work hard on another project to get the money to ship them. And then I'm going to have to continue to do that, to get more stuff in production. But you know what? It's worth it. Because I love it. And the question you have to ask yourself whenever bad things come along is, how much do you love what you're doing? This is my passion in life. I love to tell stories, and I love to share stories. If someone else is telling a good story, I'm a happy man. Because I got to be a part of it. I got to be a part of that audience. And if I enjoyed being a part of that audience, I want to share it. And I'm getting kind of gay with all of this, but I feel like saying it anyway. When it comes right down to it, I want to bring entertainment to people. Because I believe that good entertainment, it's hard to match the kind of joy that can bring. That's just my 2 cents, though. But I went through a lot to make this happen. Because like even on like when this was first going on crowdfunding, which the first time it went on crowdfunding it flopped. Well, it didn't flop. That's not true. I quit on myself, which is something that I very much regret to this day, because I shouldn't have. And trying to think what all happened with it. Like I just had people trying to sabotage it left and right, and then it didn't help that a writer for the Mary Sue, who now is trying to get into bread tubing, named Anthony Gramuglia, something like that. Um, he fabricated stories about me on Twitter saying that I had stolen money from the first campaign, you know, the one that I quit on, which all that money got refunded to people. So it's like, dude. Because he also claimed, because I was working for RT at the time, which, big regret on my part. Um, I suppose I shouldn't regret it because I had a at the very least I had a COVID-proof job, but because that was during COVID. So yeah, it's actually been the successful crowdfunding of this book. I think happened in like late 2021, early 2022. So it's been 2 years since this whole saga, like with the second campaign, you know, came around. Don't you mean Googly Moogly? It's something like that. But Anthony Googly Moogly, we'll call him that. But regardless, you know, I managed to overcome it, and I managed to get it done. Then another thing happened, but I'm still managing to get it done. I think one lesson that I learned is that the worst thing you can do to yourself is let other people stop you from reaching the things that you want in life. If there's one thing, especially I learned in like studying Joseph Campbell and things like that, it's everyone has their dragons to slay. You know? Everyone has them. We will always have them in life. So the question is whether or not you're going to actually slay it or you're going to let it slay you. And the one common thing that I realized, like when the second Inglewood book thing happened, like the one thing that I realized in my life was that I was letting the dragons slay me to the point where I was getting scared of them. And then, and again, I'm speaking metaphorically here. I was so psyched out by the dragon in front of me that I effectively slayed myself. And I just told myself that's not what I wanted anymore in my life. You know? What I wanted was to make my own way in things. So that's what I've done. And I'm happy that I have too. At the end of the day, we are all responsible for ourselves and our actions. We can't control anything but ourselves either. You know? I'm getting very flowery, I know, but it's in my nature. But yeah. We got past it, man. I say we because I wasn't alone in it. Like, I had a lot of people who helped out. And I feel like I've got a much better support structure nowadays than I think I ever have. Mostly just because I've allowed people to do it, you know? It took me a long time to realize I wasn't alone in this. I need to... When you pre-order the Bible, what bonuses do you get? I don't know. Leo, hit me with the rest of the gag. Hit me with that punchline. Do it. Take off my gloves for a second. Let my skin breathe. I'm also going to take off my elbow brace because my arm's starting to feel better. Much better. I woke up with some really bad pain in my left arm. So that was a big help. By the by, one thing I should mention is for the foreseeable future, Grindstone is sticking to Indiegogo, and that's it. I saw that there was a bit of a kerfluffle on YouTube that Tim Lim and his writer for Common America, that their funds had been held from a successful campaign for a pretty long period of time. Which admittedly is bad. Don't get me wrong, and I feel for them. I like Tim. Tim has always been nice to me. But at the same time, I've never had that problem with them. So I don't know what's going on there. So I know that there's some people making a fuss on the interwebs about Indiegogo. I'm sticking with them for now. Favorite Gundam unit? Wing Zero. Always will be. Though, as you can tell by my desk here, I'm a fan of the tall geese. All three of them. My third one is in the other room. But those there are master grades. The The one on the right is the Endless Waltz version, but I painted it like the anime version. Indigo has thinking you may want to set up a backup later. I'm thinking that what I will probably do if Indiegogo flops or continues to have problems, what we will probably do is do what Eric July has done and just have a dedicated website for it. Because I don't want to use Kickstarter ever again. I hate their way of doing things. And then the other alternatives that are out there, I know BackerKit has their own website now. Maybe that's an alternative. I don't know. Some people will probably say, Micah, you should go to Fund My Comic, in which case my answer is nah. I would rather just build my own website and use it for my own company, you know. When it comes to good characters that fall lawful, neutral, and chaotic, which are your favorite? I don't really think of my characters in alignments, to be honest with you, dude. So I don't have an answer, to be truthful. It's actually one thing that I really appreciated about Baldur's Gate 3 is that it didn't have a morality system like that. It just assumes that the player has their own internal morality system. You don't want to do anything bad to Karlach because you like Karlach, you know. Or maybe you don't care about Karlach and you're perfectly fine if she gets beheaded. You know? Up to you. What do you think is right? How is your character going to be played? I prefer things like that. I'm not a big fan of, like, thinking about the D&D alignment chart. I feel like it's too restrictive. Yeah, I feel like Eric July's model in general is one to follow. You know? It's a model that was being done before him, but he's obviously the most famous example. Because before him, his example, it was EVS, was the biggest name in crowdfunding at the time. Or really, I guess you could say the biggest name on the indie scene. Because technically speaking, Eric July is not, he doesn't consider crowdfunding what he does. Because I think that with him, the books are already either done or close to being done by the time that they actually hit the website. But overall point being, because I feel like I don't want to get dragged down into semantics there. The basic idea is that you should build your name up and then use the name you have built up through whatever means that you did to pitch people on the idea, and if they like it, stick to it. Better to think of a character you want to play and then about where on the chart it makes sense to put them, rather than say, I want to play an X character, what does that look like? Yeah, it's something like that. Like, because the way I think of it is, yeah, it's like, let the character be who they are first, and then if you feel the need to categorize them, do that after. Eric July is pretty much the de facto standard for good indies alongside his inspiration, Todd McFarlane. Yeah, pretty much. And I'll admit, man, when Eric started doing his thing, I looked at that and I just said, okay, I got to step my game up. You know? I got to make sure that everything that I do is on point. And, you know, that we're fulfilling from now on, after this campaign, within a timely manner, and so on and so forth. And I feel like we're doing that. Because, like, with Cyberpop, the instant the money came from Indiegogo, I ordered the dockies within a week. And made sure that those got out. And tomorrow, Lolly and I are devising a plan to make it so that people can easily order the new cover that we got. If they didn't get the box tier. Wouldn't be surprised if Eric July becomes the modern Todd McFarlane of this generation. It's very possible. Well, thanks, Darian. I thought it went pretty good, too. Though I will freely admit, I very much want to compete with Eric on that in that regard, you know? Which, admittedly, it's not easy, you know? Because he's got, it's not just Eric. Like, Eric is writing his own book. He's writing Isom. But he's got other writers coming in. Like Mike Barron. The Soska sisters. Chuck Dixon. To write stories for him. And I basically just have to tell myself, it's like, alright. How am I going to approach this? How do I compete with that? And what I said is I'm going to go the Paul Heyman route. So to give you a little bit of insight. I said to myself, that don't think he realized Xeon was a faction. He referred to it as a person. I think that was just a slip of the tongue. But what I said to myself is I'm going to take the Paul Heyman approach. And what I mean by that is Paul Heyman did an interview with Ariel Helwani years ago. Probably a decade ago, now that I think about it. Where Heyman said to Ariel, if I ran the New York Yankees, I became the manager of the company tomorrow, the first thing I'm doing is I'm getting rid of all the old guard. All of them. And have a good night, Gabe. But I'm getting rid of the old guard. They're out. They're gone. And I'm just bringing in new guys. Young talent. And I'm going to build them up. I get the best rookies I can and build them up so that within 3 or 4 years, I'm in the playoffs every year. And I've got my next Derek Jeter. And insert player here. I don't know much about baseball in regards to rosters these days. I know how to play it. I played when I was a kid, but not very well. I was a center fielder. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take that approach. I'm going to find young, talented, smart people that have interesting ideas. I'm going to grab them and I'm going to bring them in. And because I'm an experienced editor, not a famous one, but an experienced one, I can guide them in regards to making the best comics that they can. So that way we can build a future where we don't have to worry about people that are more concerned with their 401k than they are telling really good stories. Not that I think that that's Chuck Dixon or Mike Barron's approach, mind you. It's just, I want young talent, you know? So that's what I look for. That's, I keep an eye out and an ear to the ground for people that are younger that might be able to do exactly that. So that's my perspective on things. Thoughts on a live-action Warhammer series being greenlit finally? I am excited. Specifically Warhammer 40k. It's not just Warhammer, because it's not Warhammer Fantasy. Because, let's be honest, more people are interested in 40k than they are Warhammer Fantasy. I still remember playing Vermintide 1. And the first question I asked, if Brain was here, he could confirm this, but the first question I asked was, why am I French? Because so many of the armor designs, you looked French. I'm like, this is dumb. I don't want to be French. No one wants to be French. The French don't even want to be French. People who move to France don't even want to be French. They're like, I'm just here for the cheese. You know? But yeah, I'm just curious as to what they're going to do. The one thing that I have noticed between the secret level episode, which introduced another named Space Marine with a face, is I am wondering if we are going to get something that has to do with the Indominus Crusade And I wonder if Cavill is going to end up playing Robute Gilliman. He would be a good pick for it. Though I do understand Warhammer Fantasy does have its fans. Him or Titus would be played by Henry. I don't want him to play Titus. Because Clive Standen quite literally just got the role. You know? And Clive is very jazzed about it. Because like Henry, he has been a Warhammer fan, like a 40K fan, since he was a kid. Like, he grew up with it. So taking that from him, I would be legit bummed for the guy. But the one thing that I'm curious about is the story that they're doing. Are they going to do something with the Smurfs? Are they going to do an older story? Like Eisenhorn? Are they going to try to do the Heresy? That's the big question. Because the Horus Heresy, that's a tricky one to do. Because there's so much to it. Every season would have to be stupid successful for them to do it. Now, the good thing is that they would have the resources to make it successful, because the Horus Heresy novels literally just finished. And on top of that, the Black Library right now has the best roster of writers that I think they've probably ever had. So, the big thing would be the casting. In which case, the one thing that would be difficult to me with it being live action with the Heresy is you probably couldn't get the best guy to play the Lion because he's too old. And that's Charles Dance. Lionel Johnson, like Charles Dance playing Lionel Johnson, like that would be perfect. Because if you look at Lionel Johnson's current model on the tabletop, it looks like him. Like, it's wild. All right, have a good night, Leo. But I could see Henry playing. He would be a really good Gilliman. He's got the facial profile for it. He'd be good as Gilliman. He'd be good as Dorn. Roald Dorn. Yeah, like either of those guys. But like there's a lot of dudes that could. The one thing that I would be concerned about is I would just want to know who's going to play my two favorite Primarchs. Vulcan and Corvus. Those are my faves. I fucking love the Salamanders, and I fucking love the Raven Guard. I've said it before, I will say it again. If I ever get to write for the Black Library, the one thing I am going to make sure that happens is the orcs are going to start calling the Raven Guard sneaky beakies. I just like the thing just plays out in my head like this, like, oi! Where'd them pile of rockets go? Well, they blew up. What do you mean they blew up? They exploded. What else you want me to say? Well, who did it? The beakies. The beakies. The ones in black. I think so. Those damn sneaky beakies! You know. Terry Crews or Justin Trudeau is fucking... Oh, God. But yeah, the heresy would be a tough one to do. The sad thing about Vulcan is that the guy that honestly could have played him better than anybody passed away years ago, and it's Michael Clark Duncan. Now, I don't want Terry Crews as Vulcan. Nope. I like Terry Crews, but I don't want him as Vulcan. Vulcan is a very complicated fella, and I want to see him portrayed correctly. Not to mention, Vulcan, again, he's my favorite Primarch. I'm very persnickety about the big guy. There's one black guy in Hollywood now, Idris Elba. Idris Elba would be a pretty good Vulcan, actually. Not who I was thinking of, though. I don't know if he's still acting. But it's the guy who played... Actually, he might have passed away. I don't remember. Let me look him up real quick. Eamon Walker is who I'm thinking of. Yep, he's still around. Though he's getting up there in age. Okay. I need to put up these boxes real fast. So we've got 2 full boxes signed, ready to go. Give me just a moment to stand up and move around a little bit. Ugh. Okay. Now, my jeans are feeling really tight. I'm going to have to go change into something more comfortable here in a minute. Yeah. Yeah, Lawrence Fishburne would be a good Vulcan, too. Because I feel like a lot of Vulcan, a lot of his storytelling is going to be right here. Because in a lot of art that you see of him, he's portrayed as very fierce looking. But he's also the kindest of all the Primarchs. Well, Corvus is a good dude too, but Vulcan especially. Like the fact that he lets his Marines visit their families on a regular basis, you know. Brain, there you are. I've got 1, 2, 3, and then another box full of stuff to sign. But we are discussing the possibility specifically of them doing the Horus Heresy in this live-action 40K series. But I feel like the characters that are probably going to be the ones that, oddly enough, you're going to want some of the best actors for are the guys who inevitably turn to chaos. Because if you do the Horus Heresy, one of the biggest episodes of that television series, and I'm glad I have Brain here to confirm this, will be the Council of Nicaea. Because there's a moment in that... Okay, so I should probably tell a bit about the lore. So the Council of Nicaea is basically a trial where who is on the docket for trial is psychers in general. Because there are concerns about Magnus the Red, one of the Primarchs, Primarch of the Thousand Sons, about their usage of psychic abilities and the warp, because many feel like it is dangerous, which they're right. Magnus, however, is very naive. Now, the thing about Magnus that you have to understand about him is that every Primarch inherited something from their father, the Emperor. Some element of him. Magnus inherited his psychic abilities. The Emperor is possibly the most powerful psyker in the universe. I think that's safe to say. Magnus is right behind him. So basically there was a hearing about what was going to happen. And during Magnus's testimony, there's a part where he realizes, as he's looking around, that the decision on what to do with the psychers was already made before he even got there. And that moment will be huge. Because the problem that you run into is that what happened to Magnus after it largely has to do with what happened with that trial. I could be getting some elements of it wrong. But basically what happens is that Magnus and the Thousand Sons return to Prospero, which is the world that they hail from. And at some point, Magnus finds out that Horus has fallen to chaos. Now, Horus at the time is the war master of the entirety of the Imperium. He is the head honcho. He is directly under the Emperor. Him falling to chaos is literally worst case scenario, because his legion, at the time called the Sons of Horus, before that they were known as the Luna Wolves, it's a huge, very powerful army. Now under the command of the Emperor's sworn enemies. So what Magnus does is he tries to send a message to the Emperor through the warp. Instead of, getting on a ship, going back to Earth and saying Horus has fallen to chaos. But effectively what Magnus does is, by trying to use the warp to do it, he fucks up by destroying a project that the Emperor is working on that would effectively create their own webway. Which would make it safer for them to travel intergalactically, kind of like the Eldar can. And he effectively brought 2 greater demons to Earth when he did it. Now, the Custodians were able to handle it. But the Emperor was pissed. So he says Horus must be stopped. And that message gets sent to Leman Russ. The thing is, Leman Russ is known as the Emperor's executioner. It gets translated to kill Horus. So, you can see why that would be a very important, like, why you would really need to get that right in live action. There's a lot of emotions that get tied in it. Plus, the fight between the fight between Magnus and Leman Russ is probably one of the most legendary in the entire fiction of 40K. I would say that, of course, the fight between Sanguinius and Horus, the fight between, Leman Russ and Horus, and then the fight between Horus and the Emperor. So, chat, you got quiet on me. Is everybody still here? Or should I go ahead and close up shop for the day? Thinking everybody might have taken off. Chat went dead for like 6 minutes there. That's unfortunate. Well... Oh, wait, people are still here. Okay, cool. Wanted to make sure I didn't lose you. I don't really usually get big enough chats to know whether or not people are still here or not. So, cool. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Like, that. If they do the Horus Heresy, that's... If they pull it off, could end up being one of the best science fiction television series ever. It's a big if, though. Because, like I said, gonna be fucking hard. Ugh, goodness. Now, but yeah, I really honestly have no other thoughts aside from that. I'm saving speculation for the podcast, because that is largely what we're going to be talking about. Do 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 do. Oh, so much stuff going on, man. Okay, one more box, which I think has the Preston covers and book one stuff. That or it has the black and whites. I'll have to check. Let's get that out of the way. Drag this one over. Okay, let's see what's all in this last box. Preston covers. Okay. Preston covers. Preston and Preston. Okay. So I don't have the black and whites. Apparently. Give me just a second to check something, guys. Need to take my gloves off for just a minute. Because Hatman might have forgotten to put the order in, or Mixum didn't ship them for whatever reason. I'm going to check and see how many we needed. Give me just a moment. Are we shaming the Hatman? I don't know. Because there was supposed to be 40 black and whites and 75 reprints of the first book. So that is what we are missing. So I have messaged Hatman to take care of it. Okay. He forgot to order the director's cut, so we can shame the Hat Man for that one. Okay. But the other one said that the black and whites were here, but they're not here. I don't have them. So there's the distinct possibility that they may have. There's 10, 20, 30, 40. And then how many are in? There's 30 in that box. How many are in this box? There's 50, 100. Yeah. Yep, we are missing stock. So that's not good. We'll get it fixed, though. Let me look at this again. I'll have to recount the books. There is a distinct possibility that the cover that it got it got misprinted. Okay. But yes, everyone shaved a Hat Man. Okay, so let's get back to signing. Blah, excuse me. So let's get signing. So these are the Preston Acevedo covers. So for those of you who got a box tier, you're getting these automatically. And then, of course, other people had the chance to just add them to their current orders. They look very good. Back of the trade dress is the same, but... great print quality on these. This is also like the benefit of doing like crowdfunding. Is the print quality looks so good. It's honestly a lot better than if we were to go through like a different printer. That's why it costs a little bit more to buy crowdfunded comics. But yeah, this cover is gorgeous. I'm trying to think, what else am I working on right now? I find it funny that people are so psyched about me doing a mecha that somebody actually volunteered to pay for a concept artist for me. That admittedly very much caught me off guard. But I'm working on that. I'm really excited about the getting to do the Grips War. That's gonna be, there's a lot to it for the first episode, because the first episode is Char's Deleted Affair and Stardust Memory. And oddly enough, they have similar, like, political themings, right? Well, thank you, servant. But there's a basic idea within Xeon on whether or not they should continue the war with the Federation, even though they just negotiated a ceasefire. And it's sort of an interesting thing. There's a narrative that I've noticed throughout the course of Gundam, and it's that Zeon does a great job of screwing things up for people in space. Ghost War might be your favorite conflict in Gundam. It's a good one. I would say it is. It's definitely though the heaviest, like in regards to like the most depressive. Well, that and the Zanskar war. Zanskar is pretty brutal as well. But then again, a lot of it comes with the fact that Zanskar are just cunts. Like, Zanskar does not have a Rambaral, you know? Funnily enough, everybody that I've noticed, like or not everybody, but there's a lot of people who comment on my vids that really want me to do Victory. Like, it's crazy. I've had people flat out say, do Victory, coward. I'm like, coward? What? Like, the hell? What did I do wrong? I just talk about the fucking show, man. So, but the people who like Victory really like Victory. But then again, I would consider Victory to be kind of, in a lot of ways, Gundam's first foray into Grimdark. You know? Well, no, that's not true. Zeta is Grimdark too. And like the people who love them some like Grimdark Gundam really love Grimdark Gundam. And I understand why. I love some Grimdark stuff too. I mean, I write Grimdark stuff, you know, like I will flat out say Three Nights is Grimdark. Very much so. Victory makes you uncomfortable. It makes a lot of people uncomfortable, to be honest. I might have to get a new Sharpie after this. Gundam the Origin was your first Gundam series? I didn't really like Origin very much. I thought it fucked around way too much with the canon. Not to mention, they made Char kind of a sociopath, and he's not really a sociopath. Like, the only time he really starts acting sociopathic is in, Char's counterattack. And at that point, he is just a broken man. Tomino, oh man, Victory was such a strange series. That was not well. Victory fans, the perfect Gundam series. That is a good way to sum it up. Okay. Last set of books for today. Excuse me. A little gassy, it seems. Also watched the compilation movie for the original series. The compilation films for the original are pretty good. I like them a lot more than the compilations for Zeta. Because the ending of the one for Zeta basically retcons Double Zeta, which pisses me off. Because I love Double Zeta. Yeah, Hathaway definitely has a great art direction to it. Because everything about Hathaway just feels like old school Gundam. Do I have a favorite soundtrack composer? God, that is a really good question. Hans Zimmer has to be up there for me. Um, at least in regards to film. Who else? Okay. So, we have all 40 of the Preston covers that we ordered. Those are in. Let's scoot that over. Now, you scoot up here and have a look at something. So this box has how many comics in it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11. Wait, I didn't recount that. 20. So let's see. 9. I'll pull these out in bundles of 10. There's 10. It's 20. Let me double check this. 4, 10. It's 30. And then 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 10. So that's 40. Sorry about that, guys. It's 40 plus 20 is 60. So 120, 150. So yeah. So we are completely missing the black and whites. They are not here. So I'm sorry about that, guys. But if anything, that means we will sign some more books on a stream in the future. But admittedly, that does delay the shipping of anything. So, that sucks. But Mixam has always been good about refunding us and then reprinting when we need it. So, that is what we will do. So let me go ahead and take my gloves off. And I will message Hatman real quick that I counted them. And you guys saw me count them. Ah. Okay, so that info has been sent to the Hatman. But anyway, yeah, people who make soundtracks. Yeah, I'm obviously a big fan of Hans Zimmer. Suzumiya is a good one too. Nobuo Uematsu is another favorite of mine. And then, forgetting his name. Marty O'Donnell is another one that I really like, who did the Halo soundtracks. Jack Wall, who did the music for Mass Effect, is another one that I really like. And then Harry Gregson Williams is another one that I really dig. He did the soundtrack for Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and 4. I don't think he did 5. And then he also did the soundtrack for the Chronicles of Narnia films and also for Kingdom of Heaven. So So yeah, those are probably my favorites. And there's others like where I've enjoyed like specific soundtracks from them. Like, oh, Raman Djawadi is another one. He did Game of Thrones and also did Gears of War 4 and 5. Also did Iron Man. Um, but but there's other ones like Steve Jablonsky. I really liked his soundtracks for Gears of War 2 and 3. He did really good with those. I can't speak really that highly of the Bayformers movies because they're the Bayformers movies, you know. Who's some other composers that I really like? One that I'm keeping an eye on. Oh, Mick Gordon. Mick Gordon's awesome. And also, I'm forgetting his name. Who did the soundtrack for Proteus and is the new Doom guy. Andrew Hulshult. He's really good. And then one guy I'm keeping an eye on is Guillaume David, who did Mechanicus. Because if you have not heard Mechanicus' soundtrack, just... oh my fucking god. Oh my fucking god, it's so good. I think I actually own it. Let me have a look. Did I not buy it? Let me have a look. Oh, I do own it. Wait, no, I don't. I own the soundtrack for Space Marine 2, though, which is funny. But I don't have the one for... I could have sworn that I had bought it. Let me check this real quick. Warhammer. Mechanicus. I have the Omnissiah edition. Says it comes with the soundtrack. Let me check this real quick. It's just in your game folder, apparently. Let me check it. Because, yeah, I have the Omnissiah edition. Yep, it's all here. It's so good. It's so fucking good, man. You know, one thing I'm curious about Okay, there it is. I forgot that I had this. This art book contains for spoilers for Space Marine 2. Let's read this full. Like let's do this for a little bit before we turn in. Is there anybody in here who hasn't seen the Blood Angels, or not the Blood Angels, the Dark Angels DLC yet? I'm gonna read this real quick. Imagine waking up one day to discover you've been invited to take part in something you spent your life dreaming about. Imagine the excitement, the joy, and the passion it would invoke in you. Now imagine this happening to over 100 people all at once. I grew up in Nottingham, England. I spent my teenage years rolling dice in the Games Workshop store on Friar Lane, experiencing the highs and lows of tabletop warfare. Nottingham happens to be the headquarters of Games Workshop. I remember my dad taking me to the factory to see the life-size Space Marine statue for the first time. I felt genuine awe, imagining it full of terrifying life, laying waste to orcs, necrons, and tyranids. As I stood there, I had no idea that I would return to that same place 22 years later to fulfill a dream. Some of the best mecha games, in your opinion? I haven't played a lot of, like, incredible ones that are just, like, straight up mecha. But mecha base, I mean, a lot of the PlayStation 2 Gundam games are really good. Let's see here. In 2019, a group of hopeful individuals from Saber Interactive and Focus Entertainment made a pilgrimage to Warhammer World in Nottingham. There we met with Games Workshop and spent hours staring into glass cabinets full of exquisitely painted miniatures, locked in bitter conflict. As we gazed through the glass, somebody said, "I want to make that real." Soon after, a plan was forged to create a sequel to the highly acclaimed 2011 Space Marine video game. Since that day, scores of artists, designers, programmers, writers, audio designers, musicians, animators, and producers have devoted their lives to creating something that truly embodies the best of Warhammer 40,000. These are the people that live and breathe Warhammer. The studio shelves are lined with Black Library novels, and there are even after-hours clubs for playing the tabletop. Since the beginning of development, a painting table has been set up in the break room and treasured pastimes have been given new life. The studio has never felt so alive. But how do you go about approaching one of the richest, most detailed universes ever created? It's a very good question. Our whole team dove deep into source material. Writers tore through Black Library novels. Artists agonized over every detail of the artwork and official codexes. Musicians contemplated the resonant properties of yet undiscovered metals and alien animal bones. Programmers began to test the limits of our engine, preparing to give life to warfare on an epic scale. Games Workshop kindly gave us access to some of their most prolific creatures, including novelists, or creatives, not creatures, sorry about that, including novelists, painters, and even the mastermind behind the design of the Space Marines, Jess Goodwin, who blew our minds with details on the mechanics of the Mark X armor and Primaris implants. All of us felt like we'd won a golden ticket. In the pages of this book, you will discover a unique window into the creative process that gave birth to Space Marine 2. It is our hope that you will get some of the passion, the inspiration, and the commitment that has fueled our process, and that you will find yourself carried away by these ethereal powers, consumed by your own limitless imagination. As Albert Einstein once said, imagination is everything. So, characters. Let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. So, early concept for Titus as a lieutenant in the Mark X Tacitus armor. Pretty simple stuff. Early concept for Titus in the Deathwatch Mark 8 armor. So this is classic Firstborn stuff. And then this is Titus. You can see the surgery scars from the from the whatchamacallit, the Rubicon Primaris, they rip you all to shreds to implant you with everything that they put in there. Because the big thing about the Rubicon Primaris is that your muscles are being reinforced. Well, to reinforce your fucking muscles, they gotta open every single limb. So you're gonna bleed fucking everywhere. Let's see here. For Titus, the protagonist and iconic character for Warhammer 40,000, we spent several months developing an optimal vision for him. This included design, sculpting, and consulting with Games Workshop at every step. The resulting solutions used for Titus's armor were then propagated to other Space Marine models. Together with other teams, we created a sort of constructor that allowed us to compose characters' armor from building blocks guaranteed to fit each other. So this is the final result where they have him with the 4 service studs and everything. Oh, fuck that Tyranid. This is from Maxim Alexiev, a lead character artist. Achieving that proper proportion ratio for Titus was the most challenging aspect. The miniatures look formidable in the context of tabletop games, and their exaggerated silhouettes work perfectly for their use case. However, simply rescaling their shapes and putting them in a game's realistic environment would have had the opposite effect. We had to get creative with how the characters fitted together, too. For example, it turned out to be quite complex to fit a Space Marine head onto a helmet. Or into a helmet. The miniatures' helmets are solid. Their designers don't have to worry about how the head fits inside. We had to come up with a way to make this work, which started with scanning the models and disassembling them virtually. After many trial and errors, all the final models fit into their armor, which is one of the team's greatest achievements. So here's more Titus at Demarium. This is the recreation of the famous banner moment, which is an homage to this old set of Crimson Fist art. Which they have done quite a few different times. But this is the one that influences it. Right here. So basically they let you reduplicate this moment. Because the Crimson Fists used to be the poster boys of 40K. Titus reaching the source. Hey, look! The fucking nerd. Each character of Space Marine 2 has a rich story of design evolution. When adding details to a model, we aim to make them as functional and natural looking as possible. This meant considering aspects of the original size of the miniature and the movement patterns of each joint, so all models look cohesive on the screen. Yeah, this is a chaplain. Early concept for the Victrix Honor Guard. And for Calgar. For Ceramite, which covers the Space Marine's armor, we tried to recreate patterns typical for ceramic surfaces. Determining the thickness of its layer was also crucial, but considering there's a metal layer underneath. If bullets hit the armor, the Ceramite naturally cracks and the metal beneath gets dented. So get a bit of Calgar here. More Calgar, but this time fighting Tyranids. So them on... Oh, wait, no, these are Zangors. Never mind. Chiron has such a great look to him. Oh, so the original plan looks like they were actually able to move through the Tzeentchian sorcery. Didn't end up that way, of course. More of the last stand at Demarium. Guardsmen! Got Arcadians here. Oh, wow. Look at the detail on that servo skull. That is really well done. For the machine is eternal. Servitors. Oh, that is so fucked up. Then we've got the astropath, Neoma. The cherubim. Crew of the battle barge. A lot of people tend to forget that, like, 40K has some great body horror. Got our Chaos Space Marines here. So we've got the Death Guard, the Black Legion, the Iron Warriors, the Night Lords, Alpharius and Omegon's boys, and the Edgelords. We got some Nids here. Spore Mines. I've seen enough of these. Go away, Neurothrope. Just go away. Hormagaunts and Termagaunts. Tyranid Warriors. God, they took their sweet-ass time with these, you can tell. Look at that scale, man. Ooh, this is some detail. So these are Thousand Sons cultists. So they're Tzeentchian. Looks like they've got tattoos. This dude looks like he's got eyes growing out of his arm. This guy's growing a wing on his back. That's fucking cool. Hellbrutes. Hot damn. Ow. That's a bad day. Tyranids are the Zerg who wins or does neither. I would think it would probably be a standstill. Zangors and Imara. Love Imara's design. Alright, I think I've bored you guys enough. Well, so Hatman and I are going to have to order some more books. But we will be sure to get some more, and then we'll do some more signing and go from there. So, hope you guys had fun. If not, that's okay. We'll have more fun next time. Next time we'll play some Vidya. So, yeah. Hopefully everybody has a great night. I don't know well, he usually does stream on Thursdays, doesn't he? Let me see if he's doing anything. Doesn't look like it. So we will go ahead and leave it at that then. But I appreciate all you guys coming by and hanging out for sure. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys on Saturday.